Hello everyone, this is Showtime 112. In the beginning of World War II, United States operated some pretty outdated combat airplanes. Fighters such as Seversky P-35 or Brewster Buffalo stood no chance against Japanese Zeros. But the most obsolete and least capable American fighter type which saw combat in World War II was certainly the Boeing P-26, known as P-Shooter. This type entered service in 1932, and its metal monoplane construction made it quite advanced for the time. But the development of military aviation accelerated to such a degree that it very quickly became outdated. It was the last fixed landing gear, open cockpit, externally braced fighter airplane to enter service with the US Army Air Corps. Around 150 P-26s were built. 10 were sold to China, where they were used against Japanese forces in 1936 and 37. One was even sold to Spain, and it participated in the Spanish Civil War, where it was eventually shot down. Some P-26s were still in service with US Army Air Corps when World War II began. A number of them was defending the Panama Canal. 14 were deployed at Wheeler Field, Hawaii, while some were deployed to the Philippines. The majority of P-26s in Hawaii were destroyed in the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor. In this video, we will focus on the role P-26 played in the Philippines. Between 9 and 12, depending on the source, were transferred to the Philippine Army Air Corps and formed the nucleus of the 6th Pursuit Squadron. As we shall soon see, these airframes would end up being much more than just ground targets for Japanese attackers. The invasion of the Philippines by Japan began on 8 December 1941, only 10 hours after the Pearl Harbor attack, and it surprised American defenders to no lesser degree. Many combat aircraft were destroyed still on the ground. Philippine P-26s of the 6th Pursuit Squadron at Zablan Field evaded the initial destruction, but on 10 December, Jesus Villamor, the squadron commander, heard the distant bells from churches in Manila. As he and other Philippine pilots rushed to the hangars, he looked up and saw 6 Zero fighters swooping down. They strafed some trainer airplanes on the parking apron. Villamor took off in his P-26 without warming up the engine, and soon spotted the Zero closing from behind. He quickly dived, but the Zero followed. Flying among trees didn't help, and Villamor then climbed steeply and made an extremely tight turn. The Japanese fighter was still on his tail, so Villamor dived again and eventually flew under high-tension wires. This helped because the Japanese pilot aborted the pursuit, probably believing that the pea shooter crashed. What happened next is primarily described in Villamor's biography, while not at all mentioned by many other sources dealing with the subject. Captain Villamor then saw another zero on his tail. He climbed sharply, stalling his P-26. He then rolled and found himself head-to-head with the zero. He could actually see the Japanese pilot trying to avoid him. Villamor pressed the trigger and hit the zero, which burst in flames. Two days later, on 12 December, a large flight of Japanese bombers escorted by fighters was sighted on their way towards Batangas Field. Between 4 and 6 P-26s from the 6th Philippine Pursuit Squadron took off, depending on the source. They were again led by Captain Jesus Villamor. As the flight was at about 4,000 feet, Villamor saw the Japanese bombers turning back for home after making their attack. They were either G3M Nell or G4M Betty, again depending on the source. The P-26s climbed further and positioned themselves ahead of the bomber flight. Villamor dove for the leading plane and opened fire. P-26 was lightly armed with only 2 machine guns, but on the other hand, Japanese airplanes were not armored, and smoke started to spill out of the bomber. It spun out of the formation, much to the astonishment of Villamor. But then the Zero escort appeared. Villamor's wingman, Cesar Bassa, attempted to fight the Zeros, but he stood no chance. He was shot down and became the first Philippine pilot killed in action. Several days after that, the remaining P-26s were destroyed by Filipinos themselves before retreating. Jesus Villamor returned to the islands in December 1942, but this time as an intelligence officer where he coordinated the activities of guerrilla groups. He survived the war and died in 1971. Sources about Philippine P-26s in World War II don't agree on many details. Some attribute 2 more Zeros shot down by other Philippine pilots flying the pea-shooters, but without giving much information. The only detail that absolutely all the sources agree on is that one single Japanese bomber was shot down by Villamor on 12 December 1941. The Zero shootdown is a bit more questionable. But one thing is certain: Jesus Villamor and other Philippine pilots demonstrated enormous bravery confronting the greatly superior enemy in their antiquated airplanes, and they deserve to be remembered. If you liked the video, be sure to press the like button. You can join our Patreon supporters, and if you don't want to commit, you can make a one-time donation on PayPal. I have to say that unless this channel starts getting some direct financial support from the viewers, very soon there might be no new content. Google ads are very volatile and unpredictable, and good sponsors seem rare for those of us who don't dance on TikTok. This pace of video production requires a full-time effort, which currently seems unsustainable. If every subscriber donated only $1 a year, there wouldn't even be a need for ads or sponsors. Thank you in advance, and keep watching Showtime 112.